Lights, camera, action, and the best seats on the sofa, because it's now time to get the Freeview film recommendations of Van Connor, one of the country's top film critics, our Friday regular, our Van Friday, you might say. 3 from Van, all on Freeview, 3 from me. You don't pay any money, but you make your choice. Good morning, Van. How's your week been, matey? What have you seen this week on the big screen that we'll be seeing next week or next year even now?
Well, actually, next year would be the first one for me this week, because I got to see Nosferatu on Tuesday. I think I saw you shortly after this. I think I ran into you later on that
I can't wait to see that, but you said then it's not out till next year. It's Willem Dafoe, isn't it?
Yeah, Willem Dafoe, Bill Skarsgård, Nicholas Hoult, and Lily Rose Depp are in it. And it's really something. I think you're going to be very impressed by that, Paul. That's
interesting, Nicholas Hoult, because he was Renfrew, wasn't he, recently, with Nicolas Cage's of Empire.
He's got to think about these vampire roles this year. That's what it is.
Let's start with your first recommendation on Freeview for today, for Friday, and this is based on a true story from the world of movies, I think, isn't it?
Indeed. So tonight, midnight on BBC One, you can see My Week with Marilyn from all the way back in 2011. This is when I started reviewing films. Written and directed by Simon Curtis. It stars Eddie Redmayne and Michelle Williams as Marilyn Monroe. She's actually really terrific in it. And Eddie Redmayne is a film student who takes a job like as a production assistant / runner type, winds up becoming assistant to Marilyn Monroe herself while she's in England on a shoot. And gets a sort of insider view of, the world as Marilyn Monroe. Quite a harrowing journey, as I'm sure you'd imagine. Did you see this one when it came out, Paul? You must be quite an aficionado. I did,
yeah. I mean, I think it was when she was over making the Laurence Olivier directed film that you starred in, The Prince and the Showgirl. Is that right?
That's the one, I believe. In fact, we've got the clip I've got for you has an appearance by Judi Dench as her co-star as she arrives on that set. So this is from My Week with Marilyn. This is on, as I say, midnight tonight on BBC One.
Here we go.
Marilyn, my darling, you are an angel and I kiss the hem of your garment, but why can't you get here on time?
Marilyn has to prepare properly.
You must apologise to Dame Sybil. Sybil?
I'm so sorry. My dear, you mustn't concern yourself. A great actress like you has many other things on her mind.
You think I'm a great actress?
None of the rest of us truly know how to act for the camera. But you do. It's a rare gift. This poor girl hasn't had your years of experience. She's in a strange country acting a strange part. Now, are you helping or bullying?
That told you, Larry Olivier, did it not? Yeah. Great impersonation, Olivier, yes. You must go and apologise. Was it Dame Sybil Thorndike she's playing?
I believe so, yeah.
OK, so that's on today, and that's My Week with Marilyn. I've gone for one of our... It's a Hardy annual. It's at least once a year, I think it's compulsory, contractually, that we remind people that they should see Kindergarten Cop. Even if you've seen it before, you're going to want to see it again, because it's funny, from 1990, and it's on Film Fortune, and they're having a kind of... It's an Arnold Schwarzenegger day, really. It's a Schwarzenegger fest. Yes, Jingle All the Way starts it off. Then they've got Kindergarten Cop at 6:50. Then Commando, which I nearly recommended. And then Running Man, which is a cracking film as well. So it's Arnie all the way. Kindergarten Cop, of course, he plays fish out of water, tough police officer. On the trail of some kind of mafia family member. That's the MacGuffin. That's the plot side of it. So he gets a job at what we would call infant school, primary school, and the kids are like 4 or 5 years old, and they are, as you might expect at first, hell on earth. Some very funny characters in it. The kid who's obsessed with death and dying. There's a bit of reality touches base with it every now and again. There's a kid who's being beaten savagely by his dad, and Arnie sorts that out in no uncertain terms. And it's just a good, fun, silly, late 80s, very early 90s film, directed by Ivan Reitman, so the comedy cutting all works out on it. And it's also... It's great to see Arnie doing... I mean, he made a couple of good comedies. Twins was a great film, I think. This is good. He made a couple of... there's one... where he's a pregnant man. I can't remember what it's called. That's terrible. That's a stinker. But, comedy's very difficult, as we know. And, of course, it was around this time that Sylvester Stallone was committing Stop or My Mum Will Shoot. So I think Arnie got the best of the comedy contest on this one. It's on today, 6:50, Film 4, which is 10 to 7 in the old money, Kindergarten Cop. And this was the moment when Arnie, his ice-cool facade as action hero, cracks and crumbles because he turns up and, boy, are those kids misbehaving.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! No. Don't start this. Oh, no.
And I don't know if you remember, he then runs down the street furiously and returns to the class and makes his peace with the children by bringing them back the ferret, which is one of the great... I had no idea that was... That's a real handbrake turn of comedy. So that's 10 to 7 tonight on Film 4, Kindergarten Cop. And it's a day of irony films. Jingle All the Way, not that great. Kindergarten Cop, good fun. Commando, great. And Running Man, pretty darn good. And what's your Saturday recommendation for us, please, Van?
So I mean, this one is just an all-timer. We talked about the Shawshank Redemption, I think, about a month or so ago. Yeah. This was kind of its follow-up, in a sense. So it's The Green Mile from 1999, directed by Frank Darabont, who'd previously done Shawshank 5 years earlier. And it reunites a lot of the cast from that, a lot of the supporting players, in different roles, obviously, in another adaptation of a Stephen King prison drama. It's worth noting that in literary form, both did take place at Shawshank Prison. The Green Mile takes place at Shawshank Prison in the books, whereas in the film it's a different prison entirely.
And on death row, of course, in that prison.
And on death row, because it was the death row wing of Shawshank in the original books. Here we have Paul Edgecombe, the warden of the death row wing, played by Tom Hanks. A supporting cast that includes Barry Pepper, includes
David Morse is great in this film, I think, isn't he? He's great.
David Morse, and David Morse, and the inimitable Doug Hutchinson as well, who's I think mostly known for the X-Files at that stage. It's about the death row inmate John Coffey, played by the late great Michael Clarke Duncan, who starts to exhibit powers, the ability to heal, but is of course destined for the electric chair, whether or not he's actually in any way deserving of said electric chair. It's a proper weepy, this one, isn't it, Paul?
Well, I'd read the Shawshank Redemption, it's Rita Hayworth in the Shawshank Redemption, the novella's called, so I kind of knew what was going on there. I hadn't read this one, and it blew me away when I saw it, because it is, by terms, scary, funny, heartbreaking, then even more heartbreaking, and then it's almost a religious experience at the end.
Absolutely. I remember reading this, actually, because this was an experiment for Stephen King. He didn't just release the full novel. He released it in a couple of chapters, smaller novels, and he released like one every few weeks. And this went on for something like a year. And I had the collected bunch of all of them. But it's a great movie. Mr. Jingles is just one of the all-time movie animals. It's worth pointing out. So I've got a clip for you. This is from the introduction of Michael Clarke Duncan's John Coffey into the prison.
And we should say he's been accused of and found guilty of the most horrendous of crimes, and the magnanimity that all the prison guards showed to him, pretty much all of them apart from one, is again another reason for seeing this film. It's Tom Hanks as his most dignified. David Morse is brilliant. It's The Green Mile. It's a cracker.
Your name is John Coffey.
Yes, sir, boss. Like to drink, only not spelled the same.
Oh, you can spell, can you?
Just my name, boss. J-O.
My name is Paul Edgecombe. If I'm not here, you can ask for Mr. Terwilliger, Mr. Howell, or Mr. Stanton. These gentlemen right there. Questions?
Do you leave the light on after bedtime? 'Cause I get a little scared in the dark sometimes. If it's a strange play.
It's a great performance. Was he even Oscar nominated for this? He certainly should have been.
I don't think he was, actually. Green Mile did get somewhat heavily overlooked at the time. What a performance, though.
Amazing.
What a film.
Amazing.
God, just makes me well up thinking about
I've forgotten about that little exchange. I guess a little scared, so my God. Anyway, I'll sweep away those tears with my second recommendation. 25 minutes past 3 tomorrow afternoon. It's on BBC Two. It's probably the last great action film shot in black and white. It's called The Train, directed by John Frankenheimer. Now, Arthur Penn, who went on to make Bonnie and Clyde and had already made some great movies, including The Left-Handed Gun with Paul Newman, Arthur Penn did 3 days filming on it, and Burt Lancaster, who stars in this at his most intense, but also produced it, and was a bit of a hard taskmaster, he knew what he wanted of a film, sacked him. He said, no, you're not getting the action side of this. It's not about my character just, it's about the sweep of this story, which is Nazis looting amazing works of art, trying to take them out of France, still maybe even destroy them as they realise they're losing the war. And now the French resistance, with the Allies, sometimes aided and abetted, sometimes hindered by the Allies, are trying to stop this train from taking all these masterpieces away. So it's full-on, action-packed, great cast, because it's got, I think it's Paul Scofield in it, along with Burt Lancaster and Jean Moreau. at times is very brutal, and the black and white adds to that documentary feel of it, and it's also quite spectacular. There's a Spitfire raid at one point, there's lots of plane attacks on it, lots of sabotage in it, lots of executions. It's 3:25, Saturday afternoon on BBC Two. John Frankie and I will work with Burt Lancaster, who could be a difficult man. A few times he made The Birdman of Alcatraz with him, and also a great thriller about a possible military coup in the States called 7 Days in May, which is a cracking film. And then, of course, he made the original version of The Manchurian Candidate, one of the strangest and most important mainstream Hollywood movies, I think, certainly of the 60s. Amazing film with Frank Sinatra, that is. But this is another masterpiece for him, I think. It's The Train. It follows on from the Lavender Hill Mob. So it's an unusual double bill, that isn't it, on BBC Two on Saturday afternoon. The Ealing comedy leads you to The Train, set in the Second World War, and here is just a little chunk of the trailer.
The Train. They strafed it. They sabotaged it.
Stop! I want this engine back on the rails.
If we had 10 times as many men, it couldn't be done.
I tell you it will. Do you hear me? I tell you it will.
They bombed it. They cursed it.
To hell with London. We started this whole thing for one reason. To stop the train. Because the Allies were going to be here. Well, where are they? Every day they've been duped. And every day a man has been killed for thinking they were just over the next hill. I say to hell with it. Now they want us to paint the train? Let them blow it up.
They died for it.
That's a pretty good trailer, isn't it? And Burt Lancaster is most intense there, with his teeth gritted as he delivers those lines. And my final recommendation for Sunday is, it technically is The Wee Small Hours of Monday Morning. But I know you won't hold that against me, folks. 1:25 on Film 4, back on Film 4, is a film from 1983, an adaptation of an S.E. Hinton, female American writer, novel about American adolescents in the 60s. It's called The Outsiders. It's not as good as the next adaptation, I think, done by Francis Ford Coppola, who directed this. It's brilliant to look at. Saturated in old-fashioned novels like Eastman colours. The cast is amazing. He followed this with Rumblefish, with Mickey Rourke, and that is just one of my favourite films of the 80s. This isn't bad, though, and the cast is astonishing. I'm bound to forget people on this one. I know you'll help me out here. Tom Cruise, Patrick Swayze. I think you've got Ralph Macchio. There's also, I'm pretty sure...
Matt Dillon?
Matt Dillon's, of course Matt Dillon's in it, and Matt Dillon's in Rumblefish or Mickey Rourke. Basically, all the Brat Pack male actors are in it, and you've got Diane Lane, who was a kind of, screen goddess of the... that's why all men of a certain age speak when they think of Diane Lane. Diane Lane's in it as well, and it's basically about kids from the wrong side of the tracks, who are the greasers, and the Socies, who are the posh kids who wear the kind of Lettermans, have got the nice cars and the Letterman jumpers, and according to the greasers, the best girls, until one of the girls starts a romance, Romeo and Juliet style, Montague and Capulet style, with one of the greasers, and there's violence, there's heartbreak. There's a brilliant performance in this by Harry Dean Stanton, and it's just a great... It's melodramatic, but then when you're a young person, teenager, life feels like a melodrama at times, doesn't it? Highs and lows. There's a great line in a Don DeLillo book where he talks... He said, as a teenager, I was a danger to others and a mystery to myself, which is a great way of thinking of teenage years, I think. So this is on 1:25 a.m, Wee Small Hours, a Sunday morning from 1983. It's The Outsiders. Here we go.
I bet they're looking for us.
This is our territory. I wish that you could concentrate on something else just once in a while.
What's your name?
Pony Boy Curtis.
These are greasers who tried to pick up on our women.
Must be someplace without grazers, socials. Must be someplace with plain ordinary people.
And inspired Bruce Springsteen's wife, Patti Scialfa, to write a track called Pony Boy, the nickname of one of the characters, which Bruce recorded, I think still occasionally does in concerts. So there we go, that's my final recommendation. 1:25, Wee Small Hours on Monday morning, The Outsiders, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Where are you ending the weekend for us, please, Van?
I'm taking you back to 1996, one of my very favourite disaster movies growing up. It's Twister, which obviously got a sequel this past year in July in the form of Twisters, plural. That one starred Glenn Powell and not Daisy Ridley, the other one, whose name completely escapes me. Very forgettable actress, but anyway. Nowhere near as memorable as the stars of Twister from 1996, Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt, who are the bickering, divorcing couple who also happen to be storm chasers and find themselves engaged in a race against a rival group to see who can launch a new kind of sensor into a tornado in order to basically improve the weather tornado prediction system. It's an absolute corker, based on the novel by Michael Crichton, directed by Jan de Bont. It was a big thing at the time, the way it used CG, tornadoes. Its style of visual effects and animation was kind of revolutionary back in its time. And it's got a supporting cast that includes Alan Ruck from Succession and the late, great Philip Seymour Hoffman, of all people. It's also the only film I can think of besides Reality Bites to have a theme song by Lisa Loeb.
It also, I think, inspired a theme park ride in the Universal Studios for a while.
It did. Yeah. It did. I would love to go on that. Annoyingly, when they made the sequel this past year, in the US, if you went to a cinema, they had tornado booths.
Oh, wow.
You could get in and it was similar. And they didn't bring them to the UK. The absolute crap that I have had to sit through them promoting over the last few years. And yet when it comes to the one time they could do something cool, they don't bother. That just goes to show you, doesn't it? Anyway, you can see Twister, which I saw in 4DX this summer as well. It was a ride. Both of them in 4DX back to back was such a ride. But you can see the first one, ITV4 on Sunday afternoon. Perfect Sunday tea time film. 20 to 6, 5:40 in the old money, as you say, on ITV4. I've got a clip for you. This is the Tornado Gang telling the newcomer to the group, Bill Paxton's new girlfriend, how the tornado ranking system, the F system, works.
That was a good-sized twister. What was that, an F3?
Solid F2.
See, now you've lost me again.
It's the Fujita scale. It measures the intensity of a tornado by how much it eats.
Eats?
Destroys.
Little encounter we had back there's a strong F2, F3 maybe.
Bet we see some F4s today.
That'd be sweet.
4 is good. 4 will relocate your house fairly efficiently.
Is there an F5? What would that be like?
The finger of God.
None of you have ever seen an F5?
Just one of us.
I'd forgotten that whole scene and the subtext, the subplot there with the new woman arriving and all that kind of stuff. Quick reminder for me as well, folks, I think we probably both saw this and thought we'd leave it to the other fella, but on E4 tonight, 9 o'clock, E4 9 o'clock, it's Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy.
Yeah.
I'm Ron Burgundy. So catch that if you've not seen it, if you have seen it as well. So
I love that.
That's one of the greatest lines in any comedy film, is it not? The fantastic Van Conner, their van is off screen out this morning.
Yes, one last ride for this year. So we've got Off-Screen dropping at 8 o'clock on podcast platforms, and then we are done. We're out until the 10th of January, I believe. So I get a few weeks off. It's do you know the worst part? I've caught up on all my Oscar movies early this yeyear, so I've got nothing to do for like nearly a month.
You can always watch Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy again. Treat yourself.
I could.
Fantastic stuff there from Van Conner. Make sure you download Off-Screen, the podcast available from podcast providers, and catch him with me, I hope, next Thursday on talkSPORT, next Friday rather, on talkSPORT and Talk. But for the moment, Van, that's a wrap.